Welcome to Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns podcast. In today's episode, we step into the realm of reclaiming your authentic essence, where magic intertwines with the mundane. Today's episode delves deep into the journey of rediscovering your true self, shedding the layers of conditioning and trauma that have obscured your identity. Your shadow self, often overshadowed by life's trials, holds the key to unlocking balance and harmony. It's the part of you fractured by painful experiences, leaving behind roadblocks to growth, happiness, and success. These barriers manifest in various forms, such as depression, anxiety, lethargy, and emotional numbness, clouding your path forward. But fear not. For reclaiming your authenticity is a voyage of self-discovery, requiring patience and self-compassion. Embracing your shadow self liberates you from shackles of guilt, shame, and fear, paving the way for healing. Yet confronting these hurdles may feel overwhelming, necessitating guidance and support along the way. Remember, you're not alone on this odyssey. Take each step with tenderness towards yourself, allowing space for growth and seeking guidance when needed. Together, let's embark on this transformative journey towards reclaiming our true selves. Hi, Maya.
Hi, Gia. I like that we're talking about our truth selves and our authenticity. A lot of times, believe it or not, our roadblocks show up in our manifestations. They show up in our goals or non-goals. They show up in how we relate in our relationships and with others. They show up in our insecurities and magical failures, you could say.
Yes.
I feel like this is something important for everybody, even if they're not on a magical journey, because I feel like so many of us are stuck in a place of pain. And it's just recycling and recycling. Or if you've stuffed or suppressed it, it might not be actively recycling in your conscious mind, but it is still in your subconscious mind. And it is still holding you back from what your true potentials are.
And oftentimes compounding as well.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how you work with your shadow self.
So there's a lot of information out there, a ton of information. And that in and of itself gets very overwhelming, right? Trying to find something you connect with. One. So our goal here is to kind of help guide and break it down and simplify it a bit. As a mom, I'm constantly told this basic rule of thumb. It's the saying that you get when, you're on a flight. And the plane, the oxygen masks drop, that moment of survival, flight, fight, flee, freeze kicks in. Oftentimes we put ourselves into a position where we think we need to take that oxygen mask and put it on our loved one first, right? But that's actually the wrong way to go about it. It really is. I know there's shouldn't be rights and wrongs, but it really is. It really is, because you need to put that oxygen mask on yourself first and foremost, so that you can breathe that in and keep breathing that in to put it on to your loved ones and to get everybody into position for a crash. It is a poignant metaphor for everything in life. It truly is. And whether you're at that point right now where you feel like you're crashing, or you've been crashing and you've crashed so many times and you just don't want to, you don't know what else to do, you're suffering, you're feeling it, or maybe you feel like you're on top of your game right now, right? Whatever your situation is, shadow working will help you in immense ways. It'll help you to in growth, in dealing with traumas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
For those that don't really know what shadow self really means, in this airline example that you give is a really great example, because when that oxygen mask drops, your shadow self is the one that's going to be saying, if you put this mask on yourself first, you're selfish.
Yeah.
You should feel guilty not putting that
Shame on you.
a child or someone next to you, right? These icky feelings, these little triggers that come up, the little voices in your ear that are talking you against what the flight attendants and the flight and everyone else has told you. And that is because of conditioning.
Yes, I have goosebumps
You are
right now.
conditioned to believe a lot of people, but especially women, fight the shadow on mothering and nurturing and things like that, and putting others before herself.
Being a good partner, being a good employee, you name it.
Your shadow self is that ugly, scary voice that triggers a ton of emotions within you that make you feel dirty, wrong, ashamed, embarrassed, scared, and that try to make you convince yourself otherwise.
That insert was top notch. I have goosebumps right now because that is exactly, a prime example of the oxygen mask metaphor. And truly, this what you just said goes into this next step of that, right? So first you have to accept, and you have to put your oxygen mask on yourself.
Right.
Next, you have to go against what, like you just said, right? You have to fight that shadow self and tell yourself, nope, I am going to take my 10 minutes today for myself to work on myself. We have about 1 million different excuses that we come up with every single day to avoid working on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the wording of that seems a little off, right? Because we think, oh, to avoid working on ourselves. No, it's because we have all these obligations. We are actually using our obligations as an excuse, really. Yes, we have obligations. You know what? My 11-year-old son will be just fine reading his book for 10 minutes while I go to my space and I decompress for those 10 minutes.
Yes, decompression. That is very, very important in a triggered moment.
So for every excuse we have, there's a counter argument out there. This is something that I've discovered through my shadow working, because I am the master of making excuses.
So the first the very first thing is self-care. And for many people, self-care automatically sets a trigger.
Yes.
I have things to do. I don't have time for this. I don't, I need to take care of everything else before I take care of myself. Some people gyp themselves in the amount of time that they're in the bathtub, or they gyp themselves in the amount of time they can go for a walk, or not do any of these things at all. And it's because you already started the inner dialogue, the negative voices, before the self-care even started.
100%. 100%.
So let's talk about some of the things for self-care, especially like in the sense of shadow working, because I mean, there's so many different forms of self-care, but the importance of the shadow working self-care is allowing, like you said, decompression.
Mhm. So here's the thing. No one shoe fits everybody.
Right.
Um, and that shoe that you find that fits you might not fit you several months or maybe several years from now. It's you have to always customize and be adaptable. Okay. And I know that this is a really tough thing to do as well, because we are humans, which are creatures of habit. Okay. We can use habit to work for us, and we often use habit to work against us. So some of the techniques. So for example, when my son was a newborn baby, breathing techniques that I had described. Breathing techniques was one of the biggest things to me. Now, my kid is 11 years old. Um, at this age, they're more independent. They got quite a bit of this, right? Now I have more time to do things. So I add in meditations. I add in some affirmations. I'm not always the greatest at affirmations personally. And again, I think that also goes back to my shadow self, right? Because my shadow self likes to put myself down a lot. So my shadow self always wants to set me up for failure. You're going to fail. You are always going to be broke. You are always going to be ugly. You are fat, Gia, right? My shadow self is constantly in my head working against me. So affirmations for me are a little bit tougher. Self-care sometimes I make excuses for, because, essentially being an only parent and the provider, right? I mean, I'm working a full-time day job, I'm doing side hustles after my kid goes to bed. Sometimes that self-care is just forcing myself at least a couple nights a week to shut it all off and take a night off and go to bed earlier.
Or shut it off and do something you enjoy,
Yes.
since that can be a decompression as well.
Huge decompression.
Like even if like somebody likes to knit or crochet or paint or
Yes.
sculpt or
Journal.
bead or whatever,
Right.
we don't make enough time for ourselves.
Yes.
And I just also would like to point out that a lot of people enjoy those types of things because they are a form of meditation.
Yeah.
Your creative side, no matter what else is going on around you, the focus and the actions and the repetitions and all of that does still benefit you in decompression and give you a meditative type
Yes.
experience.
Color by numbers, adult coloring books. Honestly, I think it's an amazing idea that came about. it's forcing your mind, just like knitting, just like all the things that Maya just mentioned. It's forcing your mind to just focus on a singular thing, one singular thing. Every day of my life, I spend fighting those demons in my head, that shadow self. And although I've started to take that demon by the hand and say, you know what, it's going to be okay, friend. None of that came easy. None of that is easy. Us doing this podcast together is incredibly therapeutic. When we finish a podcast episode recording, I feel like a huge weight's lifted off my shoulders each time. I am writing a romance novel. I have found that has become highly therapeutic for me. I'm actually dumping a lot of my trauma and triggers into this. I'm reshaping the story with my fiction novel, where now I'm taking a demon, a trauma, and I'm slicing through them with a sword, right? To get there, you have to develop the habit. You have to take that 10 minutes to start off with every single day. Do a self-care activity for yourself that's going to work, that's working for you, even if it's just breathing for 10 minutes. From there, you can build upon that.
Right. Self-care is so important because there are so many of us that don't even know what their shadows are. If any of you have repressed memories, have had so much trauma that you can't even pull out details or memories, or you just don't even know how to untangle the mess, the self-care and journaling helps with that. However, when I started with shadow working, I didn't even know where to begin.
What to start writing.
Like I know my traumas, my childhood traumas, but once I started, it was way, way more and way deeper than that. And I didn't even know how or where to start. And so for those of you that this is your first time hearing about it, or the first time that you're taking an interest, or if you're in the very, very, very beginning stages, a good place to start would be recognizing and journaling your triggers. So you start from there. What emotionally triggers you, and in what way does it trigger you? Is it anger? Is it pain? Is it fear? Is it rage? Is it this? Is it that? And then you start dissecting them one at a time, trying to understand where this stems from, where it came from, why you feel the way that you feel.
Yes.
And with that, understanding projections, because you can easily, without knowing it, project yourself onto other people. And nobody, I don't think, intends to do that. I don't think anybody wishes that harm or that pain on other people. But because of it being emotionally triggered, it happens as a self-defense mechanism sometimes. And so the idea behind shadow working is recognizing these triggers, recognizing what they bring out in you, why they do, where they came from, and then remapping your thoughts around it. Like Gia said, take that demon by the hand. Work together with it. Subscribe to a new story and not the old story. You don't have to hang on to that dirty baggage. That dirty baggage is something that you're punishing yourself with on a repeat cycle
Yeah,
that doesn't even have a place anymore for you.
it really does. And I love that. A couple things that your words sparked for me. One is sometimes that demon is not, it it looks so scary. It's so scary when it presents itself, whether it's through your nightmares or an image of yourself doing something you don't want to be doing, right? However it presents itself, we don't know fully what it is, but some of the things that I have seen in working with mine is sometimes that monster, it's not actually a monster at all. It's actually me at a certain age when the trauma occurred. And when you take it and you embrace it, you are literally taking your traumatized self at that age and embracing yourself and letting yourself scream, cry, get it out.
Right? Just like
With,
that, like you were saying, like with the fight, flight, or freeze reactions,
yeah.
some of them are ingrained, like you said, from childhood.
Mm-hmm. Those reactions are survival reactions. The patterns as you've mentioned, right? I mean, just to give you one example, being rushed or told what time it is when I'm trying to get ready to do the task at hand, right? Sets me into panic, anxiety mode. It is a trigger based upon a serious trauma that I went through as a young child. And it's a very difficult one for me to overcome because it's one that is deep seated with external environmental conditioning of being put down, being reprimanded, being abused, which that age of that version of myself was so young, should never have gone through what it did. And then even to this day in my 40s, I still have difficult with it, and it still causes a minor panic attack for me when someone's like, okay, it's such and such time, we gotta go, let's go. Or I find myself doing that.
Yep, to
And then
yourself.
to myself or to my kid, I'm like, we gotta go, right? I would never hurt my kid. It's just, but I find myself panicking and, oh my gosh, we're gonna be late, we gotta get going, buddy, let's go, right? And then I take that moment and I replay me like going into like my little freak out mode, and I'm like, that's not normal. Right? And I sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, my kid probably thinks I'm cuckoo because mom's like, oh my god, we gotta go, oh my gosh, we're gonna be so late, it's the end of the world, right? Oh.
But see how that was conditioning. It's also your shadow being self-sabotaging behaviors,
Yeah.
self-sabotaging repeated dialogue that's going through
Mm-hmm.
in a loop. And it can even affect your life so much that you are self-fulfilling prophecy, where you're actually creating,
Destructive situations.
well, no, you're actually creating repetitive tardiness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which is the one thing that you're freaking about not being. Um,
And it's literally the one constant that I've always been. you know, and I've had people joke with me, you're gonna be late to your own funeral. Oh crap. There are worse things in life, right? That's where I have to stop myself, and I have to stop my trauma brain, and I have to tell myself there are worse things than life than being late to something. I have to be okay with it. I have to recognize my patterns and, like, you know, the projections. I need to, going to the next item here, I need to remap my thoughts.
That's right. And not remapping them around time, because time is the trigger.
Yep.
So how would that look?
I need to breathe it out. I need to tell myself, it's okay. It's okay. If we're late, we're late. We might actually be on time, though. If we get going right now, we could actually be there on time. I need to change the narrative now, right?
Remapping your thoughts could even be something along the lines of, what left do I have to do before I leave? Have to do. Not so much being focused on time, but being focused on a task at hand, because that's really what's keeping you in the place that you're at, right?
100%.
So,
doing that, yeah.
and if you have to do these things, then like you said, it's easier to be okay with it.
Yes.
It's easier to be okay with, I can't leave the house with the oven on or the burner on, right?
Right.
So if I don't turn that burner off, it's not going to matter if I'm late or not. I'm going to come back to a burnt down house, right?
Yep. Which would be far worse of a situation. Yes.
So I think sometimes the anxiety that we create for ourselves actually creates extra steps and things that we actually don't even need to take,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And it's in that process, realizing, okay, I'm human. I'm human. Calming yourself, because the key to, being in the moment and having that anxiety attack, which actually makes your mind not in the moment, right? Your mind is going to all the possible end of the world scenarios. But bringing yourself back down to earth, ground yourself, breathe, be in the moment. Okay, what steps did I take today to get to this point? And note it down or jot it down, right? Make it a bullet point. Don't put yourself down when you're doing this. Be constructive and nice to yourself. And I can't emphasize that enough. Okay. Well, let's first develop the habit. All right. This Rome wasn't built in a day. It just wasn't.
So also being aware of the inner judge, like she's saying, the self-sabotaging talk that you do to yourself. Be aware of that and learn to witness it rather than believe the voices. Listening to the voices will leave you frustrated, powerless, caught up in comparison, loss of hope, even, sometimes just feeling completely defeated.
Utter despair.
Especially those of us that do the negative self-talk as a personal attack. I'm not talking about the negative self-talk like, oh, that's stupid. You should have done da 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 da. Because in some ways, that inner dialogue, well, no, you should not be calling yourself stupid.
No,
but it is sometimes necessary. It's like a reflection. It's necessary. You're
growing. Yeah.
correct. Yes. I'm talking about those really bad ones. I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
like I'm ugly, I'm fat, I
I'll
am
always
worthless,
be
I'm
fake.
lazy, I'm a bad this, I'm a bad that.
Nobody likes me.
Nope, I don't have any friends because blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that you already hear. We know you already hear them and you're
Yeah.
already recognizing them. Hello, here it comes again. I'm making myself feel like shit. Um, Take it one more step now. Where did this damn voice even come from? How did how do I shut that bitch off? Like,
I know. I love that.
who the hell are you? Are you talking to me?
What the hell you mean I'm fat? Go F yourself.
And I know that sometimes people will combat that with, well, I'm fat and fabulous or whatever, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, that is still damaging
That is,
thoughts.
it is.
All you're doing is like trying to pacify
Mhm.
yourself. No, you don't want those to be going on at all.
Yeah.
So once you hear these voices, you identify the ones that are repetitive. They trigger an emotional process within you.
Right.
Now it's, where did this come from? Where did this come from? I know that I feel ugly and not confident and not smart and many other things that all stem down to some severe childhood bullying.
Yep.
So how do I combat that? Okay. This is going off in my ear. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, look at you. You're on camera. You didn't do any freaking eye makeup. Your hair looks like shit. You got 4 tones going on there. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're only showing from like here up. Blah, 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 right? The self-sabotaging talk, I have to stop. Okay, I heard you. Where are you coming from? And that's when I started to recognize that these are stemming from these childhood bullyings. Because what I heard on repeat from childhood bullies were, things like you could ruin a wet dream, you attract flies, and many other terrible things, right? So now I have to sit with this because part of this process is accepting it. I'm accepting that, yes, I did hear this. Yes, I did go through this. Yes, that was absolutely terrible. Yes, no child should ever have these types of experiences, but now you have to be gentle to yourself. What does that look like? Being gentle to yourself could be something as simple as, what do I like about myself? What do I like? I like my eyes. I like my hazel color eyes. There you go. I like my mostly clear skin 90 something percent of the time. There you go. Find things that are not sabotaging yourself. And when you're going through these things, if things are too overwhelming and there's too much anxiety, PTSD, depression, or it's just too deep of an entanglement for you to encounter, to work on, call a friend, call somebody in a clergy, find a support group, reach out to a counselor or a therapist. Don't jump headfirst into some of these things if you start realizing it's too much, because that will sink you deeper into the hole of despair. Just bite off a little Pac-Man. Okay, little Pac-Man bubbles. And as you're biting these little Pac-Man bubbles, poop them out.
Yes.
There's that ugly one. There's that fat one, right? Little bites.
Mhm.
Don't jump in and try to fix your entire being of every negative thing that runs through your head 24/7. This is going to sound really, really strange, but because I'm audio, maybe somebody else can relate with this. Listening to certain heavy metal musics are very, very therapeutic to my shadow self. I know that sounds weird,
No, not at all.
but if you think about, like, I spent a great deal of time listening to Korn today, great deal of time. And as I'm singing the lyrics, I'm identifying with that feeling of loss, that feeling of pain, that feeling of rage, that feeling of being isolated, that feeling of being afraid, being alone, not being loved, whatever. And as I'm screaming and singing it out with the lyrics, I feel a release. I feel like I'm right there alongside you, man. I am right there in the trenches with you. I feel that to the core. And, if you're not a metal lover, that's okay. If you like music, how many times have you listened to country or pop or hip hop or rap or blues or jazz, and they've initiated and triggered a feeling within you?
Mhm.
How many times have you been depressed about a past ex, a lover, somebody you're pining for, or the one that got away, or whatever, and you listen to music and you keep instigating that sadness, that cry, that desperate feeling? You're doing that to yourself to allow that release.
Mhm.
You are setting up that emotion within yourself. You're raising it, you're rising it, you're rising it, and then you're crying it out and you're letting it release. And that's no different than what I'm doing. I'm just doing it in a way that works for me.
I love that. That
So,
sorry, that really hits me. So
I mean, think about how much music can elevate or change your mood.
Mhm.
Remember, in our younger years when we would go to the nightclubs and some of the
Mhm.
music and stuff like that we played that we loved where we were at, your energy raised, your attitude raised, your vibration was different. You were more bouncy, you were more uppity, you were having more fun. I mean, that has to do with the atmosphere, the people that you surround yourself with, what activities are happening, and what your joyfulness is from them. But then, you've also got the music around you that is also playing into this whole experience. Um,
Yes.
and so I just want to put out there that music can be very, very therapeutic as well. Just
100%.
like a guided meditation. Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day because I was like, I have always been the person who turns music on in my home. But I've been going through lulls. And when I go through these lulls of not playing any music and just silence or the fan going or the TV, I do notice my vibrations drop dramatically. And I find myself being stuck more in the depressive mode of my PTSD. Um, I think it's an amazing example that you brought up. Thank you, because I do know it's something definitely that I've been missing in my life is just turning on my music and just dancing and while I'm cleaning, and singing and yeah. Yep.
Although there's a lot of other proven things that can be therapeutic about music, and that's not just the lyrics, but the different notes, the
Mhm.
timing. There's so many other things about healing subtleties of music that a lot of people are not aware of.
Mhm.
So we kind of touched a little bit about self-sabotage and um, witnessing the voices rather than falling victim of them or believing in them.
Yes.
Um, and I think we should also talk about some of the mind traps that can happen
Yes.
um, while you were stuck in a shadow self state of mind in a particular area. Um, I'll just give an example. What I mean by stuck. So I have severe chronic back pain. And so I get stuck in this negative narrative or story of my life. And what I mean by stuck is I can't do this and I can't do that. And I used to be able to do this and I used to be able to do that. And I'm worthless and I can't even clean my house. And I half the time I can't feel like I can get out of bed. And who's taking care of my pets? And like you start to go on this where you actually dwell in
Yes.
the negativity. So that's what I mean by the mind traps. And that's what I mean by being stuck. Because we
Mhm.
all have our shadow selves that have many, many things. I'm going to go back to the whole example you used at grabbing the demon by the hand. I will have to say that in my shadow working experience, sometimes I would reach out to grab that demon by the hand and to look and be like, all right, we're going to do this. And as I pull, it's got its hand on another one, and then that one's got its hand on another one, and that one's so now we got a trail of like 5 of them, but I only saw the one at first. So when I start pulling it into the light, I'm going, how many of them are you there? Like, and which one are you? And hi, what's your name? Who do you belong to? And so that's another
I
thing to be
love it.
aware of. That's another thing to
It's
be
true.
aware of. It's like those magicians that pull the scarf out of the, do you know what I'm talking
A bunch
about?
of little demons holding hands can come out.
Yeah, it's like the magician pulling the scarf out of the sleeve and it just keeps going and going and going. And you're like, where's the end? Where's the end? Where's the end? But
We might have to make multiple trips.
you might have to make multiple trips, but then you're getting them all, right? Not just
Right.
that one. So, so one of the mind traps is, I love this one, anchoring. Anchoring is the first thing you judge influences your judgment of all that follows. So, for example, you have a negative experience. Okay. I know. Okay. So I have a aggressive dog. Um, and I'm going to judge all experiences based on an experience that she did that put me into a great amount of fear, a great amount of shame, a great amount of guilt, like you name it, all the emotions came up. And so it was, when we get around people, she gets really aggressive and snappy and tries to protect and guard. Okay. Even in times that are absolutely not necessary. They're just not necessary. Well, she's gonna judge her all the following incidences, and I'm gonna judge all of the following incidences that haven't even happened yet based on that instance. I'm going to be afraid to take her anywhere because she's going to grout, is she going to guard, is she going to embarrass me, is she going to make a fool out of me, as everybody can think of a bad parent, blah, 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 blah. And she's going to be thinking, am I going to be in trouble? Is mommy going to be disappointed in me? Is she going to yell at me? Am I not ever going to be able to go out again? See?
Yes.
And then everything now based from here on out is going to be based on fear.
Yeah.
It's better to just not do it at all, right? Because then it don't happen. Wrong. That is wrong. If you lived in a state of fear like that, where you did not do anything because you were afraid that something was going to repeat itself, not only are you not growing, but you are missing out on a life of experiences, successes. You can't have successes without failures.
You locked yourself in a prison. Yeah.
You did. Yep. You're up.
No, I'm gonna let you take on these mind traps. I'm learning, and you just go, girl. Like, this is some deep shit right here.
All right. The next mind trap is confirmation bias. You favor things that confirm your beliefs. Misery loves company, right? Stick with the familiar. It's better to be miserable and know what to expect, right?
And damn, is that everywhere right now in our society?
Yes,
You
yes,
can't
yes,
even
yes.
go to a grocery store or park without having to deal with people with confirmation bias.
Yep.
Damn.
Yep. You favor things that confirm your beliefs. So, as you can see in a magical and mundane life, how restrictive that is. It is so restrictive that not only are you not open to all of the possibilities that surround you, but you're also not open to all of the manifestations that you can create. It is a really bad mind trap to be stuck in. You want to challenge your beliefs. You want to question your beliefs. You want to question everything around you. You want to challenge everything around you. You want to be open and receptive. You want to be able to manipulate energies, manipulate outcomes, and put yourself out there. And you can't put yourself out there if you're keeping yourself in place.
It's also doing two different things as well, like a symptom of it, right? Teaching you to either avoid confrontation, which also will limit your growth potential,
Yep.
or it'll do the opposite, where it'll have you constantly in confrontation, arguing with other people, which also limits your growth potential.
Yep.
It's got to be a balance.
This next one is the one that drives me. You want to talk about triggers? Let's talk about triggers. This next one is a big trigger for me. I know somebody that does this. You'd rather do the opposite of what someone is trying to make you do. I don't think make is really a good word, because I don't think anybody should be able to make somebody do anything. But let's say, correct. So let's change that. You'd rather do the opposite of what someone asks you to do. This is a really big trigger for me, because I know people that do this. I also know why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's touch on that real quick before we go to the next one. Why would somebody rather do opposite of what is expected or asked of them?
Multiple potentials, one of which I've actually experienced, which was the individual who was constantly doing this to me, along with other things that they were doing to me, was intentionally doing this because that individual is actually suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. And they were trying to control me, and they were trying to gaslight me and blame shift.
It was intentional pain causing.
Intentional. Two, a different look on it, possibility would be that this person is suffering from another potential disorder where maybe they don't feel like they're going to live up to the expectations. And so then they'll do the opposite.
So is that a disorder or is that a shadow self?
Well, that's a tricky question, right? Because there are multiple variables that could be involved that could lead it to be either or both, right? Whereas sometimes our brains, when we have a mental health disorder or disease, it can be caused by traumas of, our shadow selves, but it can also actually cause shadow selves. This is a really tough question, right?
So in my
Yeah.
instance, I know this person and I know that their shadow self believes that nobody takes them seriously and that nobody thinks that they're smart or that they don't feel treated as an adult. And so doing things opposite would be, I know that I can show you that I can do this. I know that I can show you that I'm smart. I'm going to do this in the best way I know how. Right?
Absolutely. That one's a loaded one.
The
It is a very loaded one.
next one is sunk cost fallacy, clinging to things that already cost you something. That one is such a stab to the heart.
Yeah.
For me, this one plays true in a lot of my relationships earlier in life. I already knew that the relationship was costing me something, and then I still clung to it anyway. And that was because you remember the fears of the unknown, the afraid of being ugly, the afraid of all of the other shadow triggers coming into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will pay the cost to keep this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all that's doing is cycling yourself into a mindset of low self-worth.
Yep.
You're only continuing to damage yourself by saying to yourself, this is all or the best I'm going to get.
Yes.
At a cost to yourself. So another one is Dunning-Kruger effect. The more you know, the less confident you are. Remember, we talked once about imposter syndrome, you and I did.
Yes.
That's what this reminds me of. Imposter syndrome, meaning you have the tools, you have the knowledge, you have the history, you have the background. You are a professional and what you are presenting. But
Yes.
the more you know, the less confident you are. Hence, imposter syndrome. Who am I to be teaching this? Who am I to be not feeling that you are intellectually and professionally at where you truly are at. Not seeing your full value, your full worth, your full background, history, all of it. Then there's the backfire effect. And that's when your core beliefs are challenged. It can cause you to believe in them more strongly. Do you know, like any person that I've had a core value belief challenge with never ends well, never, ever ends well. It's always, I can have an open conversation with anyone about any type of topic. Whether it be, and I try not to have triggering topic conversations with people that I don't know well. But if someone presents a topic, we get stuck in that discussion or that situation. Whether it be politics, whether it be religion, whether it be parental rights. I mean, like, just think about any core
Right.
strong belief somebody would have. Um, when your beliefs are challenged, and when I'm saying this, I'm saying challenged by someone else. Um, Not necessarily you challenging your own beliefs, which
Right.
actually that could produce the same result as well, but
I could see that.
it could if you're that type of person, but believing in them more strongly.
Yep.
That actually is also a mind trap. Um, be,
Interesting.
well, because that is leaving you in a stuck box.
Yes. Because
Okay.
you're pulling yourself back, and you're surrounding yourself with,
You're putting a fortress around,
yeah.
right? Now,
Yes.
we are not saying that you have to agree, that you have to change sides, that you have to change your core beliefs. That's
Yes.
not what we're saying. What we are saying is that it's a mind trap if you aren't open enough to hear things around you without having to see other people or yourself as the enemy, right? It does not have to
Mhm.
be one right, one wrong, one a victim, one a abuser. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be, you can be gentle with
Yes.
yourself and you can be
Mhm.
gentle with others, and you can allow these challenges of core beliefs without
Right.
sticking yourself in a box.
No, I love that, because it's incredibly relevant as well as to a lot of stuff of what we go on in our society today. Um, Having constructive conversations versus destructive ones.
And there
Having,
aren't any really
right.
constructive conversations much anymore.
No, there's
You have a
not.
conversation with somebody, you might as well be having arguments or okay, there's my shadow self. Hey, how you
Right.
doing? Right? This is going to be an argument. I'm just going to back out. I don't really want to rock the boat. I don't
Yes.
want to argue with somebody all night long. I don't want this negative energy, so I'm just not going to discuss. But it is a real thing.
It is a huge real thing.
Mhm.
It takes me back, right? Because I remember, oh gosh, I remember in my late teens and my early 20s, right? Sitting down with buddies and even having conversations, deep, existential, philosophical conversations about a lot of these core belief topics, right? And we wouldn't sit there and I'm a passionate person. I just am. But we wouldn't get hateful,
Right.
mean to each other, right?
Right.
I had a friend who he was an atheist. This guy was so smart. Let me tell you. And I'm agnostic. And it was, you know what? I left every single one of these debates with him feeling energized.
Because at that point in time, it was probably, really? Why do you see it that way? What makes you
Yes.
believe that? Oh, yeah, you opened up my eyes to
Yes.
something I've never thought before. Oh, well, what do you do
Right.
about this? And how do you feel about that? That's the way it should be.
It
It,
really, yes.
right.
Instead of this is the way it is, right? And we lost a lot of that. So no, I can totally, wow, a lot of us are dealing with this backfire effect.
Yes. Declinism. You remember the past better than what it was and expect the future to be worse than it will likely be.
Mm.
Uh,
Yes, I know someone suffering from this.
there's generations. suffering from
Yeah.
this.
Oh no, you're right.
There's generations.
We got a whole damn society suffering from it on that
Yes.
note. Hell yeah, we do.
Yes. Do you think this requires any further explanation?
No, I think
I don't think so
I
either.
think it's pretty damn self-explanatory.
I think so.
Back in my day.
Mm,
Really.
right.
Because I also remember hearing you complain about having to walk 10 miles in the snow. So got it.
Right. The next one is framing effect. You allow yourself to be influenced by context and delivery. Oh my God, I'm so guilty of this. Do you know what I mean by this?
Okay, so can I try
Yes.
with a guess? Okay, so for example, I'm a very emotionally charged person. I can sometimes get pretty animate and passionate when I'm discussing something that sometimes it makes other people feel like I'm yelling or something, but I'm not yelling. Or my volume, and my passion, and I'm like, well, but then they got this and you got that, and da 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 da, da, right? And then all of a sudden they're pulling back and they're pulling back and they're like, I need to escape.
And
And then
that's
I'm like,
their shadow selves,
oh, I'm
right?
sorry.
Reacting.
Yeah.
But now let's look at it the other way. My
Yes.
shadow self is influenced by context and delivery, and it brings out guilt, shame, all of the triggers.
Yes.
And it's how somebody delivers to me how they have a deep need and how their need is very, very important. And then I try to
Yes.
put their needs over my own. But it all
Oh,
has to do
yeah.
with the context and how it was delivered. For example, if I get a text message from
Oh,
someone
yeah.
saying to me, oh man, I really need to get out of here. Like, um, I need a different roommate. This is just not working out, right?
Okay. Yep.
I need I need to get out of here. Me and my roommate are at wit's ends. This is just awful. I can't take it anymore, right?
Right.
Different context now, same situation. Oh my God, me and my roommate are fighting and she kicked my door in and now she's taking all my stuff and breaking it. And I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to either hurt her, I'm going to hurt myself. I just can't take this anymore. You need to get me out of
Ooh.
here.
Right.
Now, who's to say that the first delivery wasn't the same person, right?
Right.
These could have been the exact same people in the exact same situation, but the context and delivery changed how I reacted and how I was influenced.
Damn, I've been there.
The last
Yes.
one is negative bias.
Mhm.
You allow things to be disproportionately influenced by your thinking. I don't think we need to elaborate on that much other than how does negative bias be a shadow self? That's where I think we need to kind of like bring this in a little bit because we all have negative bias and it's because it's based on our experiences, our knowledge, our what's shaped us. Okay. But how does negative bias have to do with your shadow self?
Mm. Would this
Like,
be like my dating or that one night stand example? And now I have negative
sure.
bias on all dating,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
it's disproportionate to how the reality, which is
What's the point of dating? They're just going to want what they want from me and then they're going to ghost me. I'm not going to hear from them again.
yeah, I'm just gonna
I'm just going to be used for your own
stick to
personal
myself.
in yep.
Yeah. Okay. Hot damn.
So, yeah, this is now shadow working. We are not able to encompass the depth of shadow working in this podcast. It is way too vast. It would be way too many episodes. We are not prepared at this juncture to go over this much material because it's not going to be something that all listeners are going to want to hear for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes.
Mhm.
But we are in the next few weeks going to have a course with modules
Yes.
that you can purchase that we are going to go through the whole process in multiple modules and classes on doing shadow working for yourself. And this way, if it's something that you're motivated to do, something that you want to dive deeper into, that you can dive deeper into that with us, and we'll go through a process from beginning to end. And then that way, if you are not interested, then we're not using up the airtime, and potentially lose listeners due to the lack of interest. Another thing that I would like to point out is there will also be a shadow work journaling piece that would also be available, like a workbook. They will be priced separately so that people can choose which one or both. And it will also be different payment options, like a pay by module, or I believe that the payment and billing that I work with allows Afterpay. More details to come. So please join our Facebook group so we can get you into the private group, and we'll keep up to date information on the shadow working classes and the imposter syndrome classes as well.
So Maya, so could they also like they join our Facebook group and then they can send us their email and we could email them out the information with the link of where to
Yeah.
purchase it as well.
On our website, www.seekingthelight of 1000, that's the number, seekingthelight of 1000suns.com. There is on the very homepage a way to sign up for our newsletter by email, and you can unsubscribe at any time. But that's when like new content and the drop of classes or ebooks or any of that stuff will be advertised through, and it's not something that we are going to bombard email boxes with.
Exactly. We're not going to be spamming you.
We
I know
don't have time for that. We
we
do
have to,
not have time to
no.
chase people with spam. If you're interested, we'll just do the
Yeah.
updates. Otherwise, a lot of our updates, as much as I am able to, are usually put up in our Facebook group.
Just remember that, you know, professional help should not be stigmatized.
Right.
Mental health disorders should not be stigmatized. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, we all have some form of damage in our brains. Let's face the facts here. We really do.
And
What
you
the
bring
hell?
up a really, really good point, because if you already have anxiety or depression, and you even made me think of some neurodivergence and stuff too sometimes.
Yes.
There are a lot of triggers and emotional outbursts or emotional inbursts, or things that happen that you may actually do better with a medical support group.
Mhm.
And there's no shame in not starting it now either.
Mhm.
There's absolutely no shame in not starting this path at this moment. You need to be compassionate with yourself. You need to treat yourself and talk to yourself like you would a friend. And you need to feel comfortable, confident, and ready to take on
Yes.
a challenge like this.
And don't self-diagnose yourself. That's a huge
Right.
thing. Please don't self-diagnose yourself.
The benefits of shadow working, like how you would benefit. I mean, other than embracing yourself toward healing and growth, you would have less conflicts in your life. You would have a better well-being and be more confident in standing up for yourself and for your boundaries.
Yes. Yes.
It would be easier for you to address your challenges and still feel whole and accept yourself. It would help you shift from a mindset of pain to problem solving. That's huge. Just that little twist, just that little tiny twist, right?
Yes. Yes.
Don't delve in the pain. Look for a roadmap to problem solving. Any of us that jump into shadow working, just imagine that you're in a delivered IKEA furniture. Okay. You're going to have to find all them little pieces.
Yeah.
And it is assemble yourself. But that is good. That is good. You want it to be assemble yourself. It allows you to connect with yourself better and deeper and to have a more sense of fulfillment, purpose.
Yes.
Feeling more joy. Because think about how much feeling and repeating pain patterns is stealing from your joy. It does. It basically, it's like a leech. It just sucks the joy right out of it.
It really does.
Some of these things, and we are not making medical claims. We are not medical professionals. These are not medical claims, but for some people, working on some of those things do result in better sleep, easier falling asleep, having a more calm mind can change a lot of things as far as sleep habits is concerned. Better relationship connections, more fulfilling relationships. Freeing yourself from your own psychological barriers, things that you are holding yourself back on your full potential of, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. Recognizing them and heading toward them head on will help you free yourself from those barriers. Deeper understanding of your motivations and behaviors. How do you stop projecting? How do you stop projecting? You stop projecting onto other people by recognizing your behaviors. How do you recognize your behaviors? By knowing your triggers. Well, how do you know your triggers? Do your shadow work. This is going to pull it all together for you. And you know what? Don't be a hater on yourself if you slip backwards a little bit. The journey is not going to be straight up. You are going to have some climbing and some leveling off and some sliding back, and that's going to happen. But each time that incline gets harder or there's a slight slide back, you're leaving stuff behind you. So you have to be
floating the
gentle.
garbage.
That's correct. That's correct. Like the little Pac-Man eating the bubbles and pooping them out.
I get a visual every time you say that.
Feeling more self-aware, having more self-acceptance, feeling authentic.
Your authentic self.
When you feel and know and connect with your authentic self, it is so powerful that everyone else around you is going to be affected by that. They are all going to know that that is you, the real you, your authentic self. And it's going to be mind-blowing for everyone. It'll also help you overcome fears. The fears of confronting your hidden or shadow self aspects, because each time you take a little chew, it gets easier. It does. It gets easier. And it helps you develop a stronger mental and emotional resilience. Because as you're recognizing the things that are tearing you down, as you're recognizing the things that you're stuck in, as you're recognizing the things that hurt, the things that bring these triggering feelings, and recognize where they come from, as you're healing from it, you're also setting that bar higher for those things to happen from.
Everything that we've discussed in this episode, it's not an easy journey. It is a necessary one.
It's not for the faint of heart.
I think about these things that I've learned and I've discovered, and the things that I'm still working on, right? And that's the thing, though. But at the end of the day, I'm growing. And that tree of life, I'm allowing myself and my higher self and my soul to ascend to that next level.
It makes your life easier.
Yes.
So we're talking about the happiness, and we're talking about fulfillment and being authentic and so on and so forth. But let's just get down to something really, really simple. Doing the shadow work and learning all of these things about yourself and how you can compose yourself better, or, you know, hit these scenarios in life or these triggers and make your life easier.
Yes.
Why sit in a painful place and stuff and hide these shadows when you can make your life easier? And this all, like, everybody knows what is in the mundane is in the magic, and what's in the magic is in the mundane. This all ties together.
Yes.
Can't have one without the other. You have to have that duality. And it needs to be a healthy balance.
This is the key.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this journey. We hope that we have enlightened our listeners on the topic of shadow work and the different things that that can mean and what it can do for you. We're excited for those of you that are interested in joining the webinar or class. But we're also excited for future episodes of varying magical topics.
Exactly.
So,
including shadow selves, which is completely different from doing shadow work. So
yes, it is.
Stay tuned, friends.
So thank you for joining us. We are so happy to have you. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like to be on the Facebook page, join Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns, and we can send you an invite to the group. And if you would like to join our newsletter, you can go to our webpage at www.seekingthelight of 1,000 suns.com. And there is on the homepage a place to sign up for the newsletter.
I'm going to pluck from the universe here, from the pure love stream, some love for each and every one of you. And I'm sending it out to you right now. So we love you all. Thank you.
Have a good night. Blessed be.